Sometime last year, I had a terrible hotel experience that left me shaken and thinking for months. Before that happened, I had been at many other hotels and had never experienced such a thing. I worked for a company that required us to travel all the time to meet our clients in different states and sometimes attend business conferences related to our field of expertise. Last June, I was traveling to attend a business conference in a nearby city, and I had planned to arrive there on time so I could probably visit a bar or just hang out later that evening. Unfortunately, my flight got delayed for hours, and as a result of that, I arrived very late. Initially, my plan was to get a decent hotel I could sleep at that night, and then go to the conference the following day. Unfortunately, after hours of being taken around by a taxi, I couldn't find any decent hotel. All the good and modern hotels were full, and because I was so exhausted and tired of searching, I was forced to settle for an old hotel. The hotel I ended up staying at was considerably cheaper than the others I had seen. However, the rooms had a damp smell and they weren't very clean. Since my intention was just to find a place to rest for the night and keep my stuff, I had no other option than to stay there because it was very late. As I mentioned earlier, I was very exhausted, and shortly after I showered, I went straight to bed. Hours after I slept off, I woke up to the room phone ringing. At first, I was reluctant to take the call because it was quite late, but I eventually took it when I suspected the receptionist might have been trying to pass a message. As soon as I took a call, a man introduced himself and claimed he was calling from reception. He said he was calling to ask about the noise that was coming from my room. According to him, other guests in the hotel had called reception to complain about it, and they specifically mentioned my room. I'll be honest, I was quite confused by what he had said, especially since I was the only one in the room. I told the man I had been asleep the whole time, that I didn't hear any noises. I said he might have been mistaken because the noise was not from my room, and then I ended the call. After I ended the call, I thought about what he had said for a while before going back to sleep. I didn't think anything was wrong or off until I went to check out at the reception in the morning. While checking out, I asked the receptionist if they had found where the noise was coming from. She seemed confused at first. Seeing that she didn't understand what I was talking about, I tried to remind her that someone had called me earlier that morning to ask about noise from my room, and that's when she told me that she didn't know anything about it. She even called her male colleague, who had been at the reception the previous night. He also claimed he had no idea what I was talking about, and that no one from the reception had called me or received any calls from the guests. That's when I knew something was off, and I knew I wasn't dreaming either. Instead of letting things slide, I insisted that I got a call from reception around 2 a.m. and requested that they check the call log. It turned out that someone had called the rooms, but it wasn't from reception. I don't even know how to explain that. The receptionist and her colleague claimed they didn't know who had called the guest, and they looked so clueless. The receptionist found out from the other guest that the caller said the same thing to all of them and had called around the same time. It's possible whoever was calling wanted to know who was in their room and who wasn't, so they could go and steal things. That's my guess, anyway. Well, I left the hotel that morning and never returned. Since then, I've been very particular about the kind of hotels I stay at. To avoid such incidents from happening again, I always ensure I book my hotels in advance before I travel. I don't know if I should call this a horror story or a story of my sheer stupidity and carelessness. 3 years ago, I was traveling alone to visit my relatives in another city. It had been months since I had seen them, and I thought to maximize my break from work. I decided to travel by train as usual, and that was where I met a nice lady whom I started talking to. I wasn't flirting with her or anything. It was a long ride to my destination, and I figured talking to someone would take my mind off the long journey. The woman seemed friendly, and she flowed along with me so well. You know when people talk to strangers for the first time and feel like they've known each other for a while? That's exactly how I felt with that lady. Our conversation drifted from just talking about the weather, the economy, and other regular things to sharing personal details. Because I felt very comfortable with her, I told her a bit about myself and what I do. I own an event planning company. My trip, my family. I even told her the hotel I planned on spending the night at before continuing my journey the next day. I just believed that I was talking to a total stranger, whom my chances of seeing again were very slim. Since it was my thing to give strangers my business card, I gave her my business card. When she confirmed that I owned an event planning company, like I'd said, she promised to contact me so I could plan her daughter's birthday, which was only 4 months from the time we met. Our conversation ended as soon as I got off the train, and to be honest, I didn't really believe her when she said she'd give me a call. About an hour after I got off the train, I got to the hotel I had booked, checked in, and left my things there to go out and eat. I'm unsure how long it took, but I think I spent more than an hour out of the hotel. I took time to find a good place to eat, and as soon as I finished my meal, I returned to the hotel. On getting to the hotel, I noticed there was a commotion at the reception. As soon as I walked to the reception, I instantly recognized the woman arguing with the receptionist. It was the woman from the train. When the receptionist saw me, he told me that the woman was trying to get the key card to my room and had been claiming to be my wife. She even showed the receptionist my business card and claimed she had to come later because she had to take care of a late party. However, since the receptionist did not see us check into the room together, he insisted that he had to confirm with me first before doing anything. And that's when she got frustrated and began to yell at him. Despite knowing that she was pretending to be my wife, when the woman saw me, she still insisted that I was her husband, who had left her at an event we both planned. She even made it sound like we both owned the event planning company. Then she tried to talk about her daughter, Megan, asking if I had called to check on her nanny. That was the height of her pretense for me, and that was when I told the receptionist to call the police because I didn't know who she was. Thankfully, the hotel called the police, and the woman was arrested. Apparently, it turned out that she was already wanted by the police for stalking her ex-husband. I still don't know if she mistook me for the ex-husband or if she wanted to take advantage of our conversation on the train. Since then, I've learned to not overshare with strangers, no matter how nice and friendly they look. I now mind my business and try not to start conversations with people I don't know. Honestly, I keep thinking about how things would have turned out that day if I hadn't returned to the hotel on time, or if the receptionist had given her the key to my room. It's a good thing the receptionist stood his ground and insisted that he had to see me first to confirm if she was actually my wife.